So, 2 years ago, I moved in with my dad and his girlfriend. That was February 2016 that I moved in with them. And I had been living with them for a little while. And I got used to running errands and doing odd things for them here and there when they were too busy or they just didn't feel like going to town. So, my dad's girlfriend's son had committed suicide 3 years prior to this. And she, clings to every little thing that says, his friends, this, that, things that kind of remind her of him. And I get that, I understand. Well, in 2016, in October, a friend of her son's came over to see how she was doing, to check up on her, I guess. I really don't know. And they had asked me to give him a ride home. Never met the guy prior to this meeting of her saying this is, we'll call him Bob for now. This is Bob. Bob, this is my stepdaughter, Amara. And I was like, hey, Bob. And my stepmom was like, can you give him a ride home? And I was like, I don't know where he lives. And that was kind of like my excuse of, I really don't want to do this. Please don't make me do this. And she's like, well, he can tell you where he lives. And I was like, yeah, there's that. So, yeah, I guess I'll give him a ride home. So, we get in my car. And I'm driving him, and I'm like, okay, where am I taking you, dude? And he's like, oh, I need to go to my grandparents' house first. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? Whatever. Didn't think anything of it until we started getting down the road. And then he did some inappropriate things. Like, he took out his manhood in my car. Was, playing with himself. And I was like, you need to put that away. And he's like, said this or that. And I was like, look, that's really inappropriate. You need to put it away, you know? And I was getting kind of uncomfortable. Because seriously, who does that? And he said, well, do you want to have sex? And I was like, ew, no, I'm gay. And I have a girlfriend. So, yeah, you don't, no. That's, no. And he wouldn't put it away. And then the closer we got to his grandparents' house, he finally just stopped what he was doing. Then we get to his grandparents' house, and he gets out of the car, and he goes inside their house. And then he comes back to the car, and I had this really, really bad feeling. Like, just gut-wrenching bad feeling. And sorry about that thing. I still kind of choke up whenever I talk about this. He's like, well, my grandpa has a horse. You want to go see the horse? And I was like, no, I want to take you home. He's like, well, let's go look at the horse. And I was like, no, I want to take you home. And he's like, let's go look at the horse. And I was like, oh my god, this guy's not going to stop unless I look at the horse. So the horse was like in a field, like in a field just a little further than his grandpa's house. So we drive down to the field, and I don't see a horse, and I'm like, so where's this horse? He's like, oh, you gotta come over to the passenger side of the car to see him. And I was like, I'm not getting out of my car. He's like, no, you need to. And he reached over and he grabbed my arm. And I freaked out. And something about the way he grabbed my arm scared me. And the look in his face scared me. And his body language scared. I got like this really bad hit you in the stomach gut feeling that something bad was gonna happen. And I was like, well, I can't get out of the car with your hand on my arm. And he's like, okay. And he let go. Well, I couldn't really leave or anything because he had taken the keys out of my car. Because I was stupid and I put it in park. And he had taken my keys out of my car. And I got out of my car, walked over to the passenger side, and I was like, where's this horse? And then the next thing is I'm on the ground and he had pushed me on the ground and he had my pants down and he was in and out within minutes. And then he gets up, he dusts himself off, and he says, okay, we can go home now. You can take me home. And I was like, yeah, I'll take you home. And I was angry that had just happened, and angry that I felt like I couldn't leave him there at his grandfather's house. I was just angry. So, I drove him to our local motel rundown, or motel like Days Inn or something. And I dropped him off. And I came home. And I was kind of scraped up. I was really angry. Really, really angry. And I went to my room, then I came back to the living room where my uncle and aunt, and my dad and his girlfriend were, and I was like, don't you ever effing ask me to give another effing person another effing ride. My answer is effing no from here on out. And I used to be one of those people who I would see, like, someone walking on the side of the road on a hot day, and I'd be like, oh, it's hot, let me give you a ride. And I can't do that now. I'm too scared to do that. I drive with my doors locked. I have pepper spray on me. I can't even go to Walmart by myself without freaking out. I mean, this guy, like, he's done a lot of damage. Well, like, my dad knew something had happened. Because, I mean, I was in a pretty good mood when I left, and then I come home all, upset. And well, not really my stepmom, my dad's girlfriend came into my room. And she was like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And I was like, "Nothing. Get out of my room." She's like, "No, what's wrong?" And I'm like, "No, you need to get out of my room." And she went leaving. I was like, "Get the F out of my effing room. Now." And she was mad that I had, like, totally cussed her out. And I talked to her that way. So she went to go get my dad. So my dad came back to my room, and he was like, "Okay, what happened?" And I was like, "Nothing, leave me the F alone." He's like, "Something happened." I was like, "Leave me the F alone." And he wouldn't leave it alone or whatever. And I was like, "He raped me." And I just said it, and I was like, and he's like, "Well, we need to call the police." And I was like, "Well, I don't want to. I just don't want to do anything." And he's like, "No, we're calling the police." It's like, don't want to. Well, we ended up calling the police. A detective came out here. Nice man. And he was like, "Okay, we're gonna get your statement of the events that happened." And I told him what I had just told you guys. And he was like, "Okay, why'd you get out of the car?" And I told him again, I was like, because either way he was going to hurt me. And he was. Either way, didn't matter which way I went. So I thought that if I complied, whatever he was going to do would be a lot easier on me. And it was. So we made a report or whatever. Sorry, it's like 12 a.m. We made a report, and he went to do his investigation. And then he came back, and he's like, "Well, Bob said that he didn't do it. That's not what happened." And I was like, "You had said when you first got here that if I felt like I couldn't do this, or I felt like I didn't want to do this, I could just leave it alone." And he's like, "I don't advise you do that, but you can." I was like, "Okay, I want to just leave it alone. I want to drop it. Drop everything." He's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure." Yeah. So he dropped it. And my dad has made comments even now whenever we try and talk about it or whatever. He makes comments about, "Well, you're known for lying. You've lied before, or you've done this before, or why should we, I was like, "Look, this happened, whether you want to admit or not." He still doesn't believe me. He's talking to the man that raped me. He's friends with him. And I just don't understand why. So that's my story. And I didn't go into full detail because I don't think the YouTube community should have to hear in full detail. Something like that. Took longer than 10 minutes. Sorry, Mops.